Today I'm rounding out the original Mass Effect trilogy with the third and final entry, Mass Effect 3. I've got a lot to say and I don't want to spend too much time saying it, so let's get started. Mass Effect 3 has big shoes to fill when it comes to the story. The second Mass Effect title really nailed the Normandy crew, giving a huge roster of characters to interact with and get to know, with them also having some amazing writing, making you want to get to know them. I was worried Mass Effect 3 wouldn't be able to live up to that, and I was also worried that the gameplay would suffer once again. But I'm happy to report that neither of those worries came true. Story-wise, Mass Effect 3 picks up a bit after the second title, with Shepard living on Earth and not really doing a whole lot of exciting stuff. He's called into the Earth Council to discuss rumors of a Reaper attack, and what do you know, the Reapers then interrupt their meeting with a nice big laser beam. This is pretty much the whole idea of the game. The entire galaxy is under Reaper siege, and once you get back to the Normandy, it's up to you to gather allies and unify the galaxy to fight back. This is of course easier said than done, as Shepard needs to carefully tiptoe around the political giants of the galaxy in order to make everyone happy. That's the game. Build an army to fight back against the Reapers and Cerberus, because yes, Cerberus is back, but not as friendly this time around. Cerberus makes up the main force you'll fight back against. They serve most prominently as cannon fodder to give you something to shoot at in missions. This works in terms of gameplay, but narratively it robs Cerberus of any compelling depth that was built up in the second game. This is also true with the Elusive Man, since he's running the Cerberus show. In Mass Effect 2, the Elusive Man, and by extension Cerberus, walked a very thin line in the gray area. Their goals were to save humanity, but they weren't afraid to bloody their hands if needed to further their plans. However, casualties weren't something the Elusive Man actively searched for. If there were ways to accomplish his goals without harming people, he would. At the end of the game, he wants to preserve and harness the power of the Collectors. He sees them as a tool to be used, not an evil to be defeated. There was a real case to be made for the Elusive Man, and while I think many players will still defy him since his ambitions lean more towards the nefarious side, he's still able to bring up many thought-provoking ideas, and he makes a lot of sense. It's very easy to see where he's coming from and why he's doing what he's doing. In Mass Effect 3, Cerberus as a whole is much more black and white. They're actively attacking settlements, pushing back against the Galactic Alliance Shepard is building. The Elusive Man still has the attitude of someone functioning in the gray area, but he's ultimately not. Overall, he's much more aggressive, angry, and threatening than he was in the second game. He shows up at the start of the game a few times, but then you don't really hear from him until towards the end of the game. And by the end, you'll learn that he is being controlled by the Reapers, and this sort of explains his mood shift. He's basically wanting to do the same thing to the Reapers as he wanted with the Collectors. He wants to control them and use them. He goes on and on about controlling the Reapers and saving the galaxy, and he ends up being completely right. One of the endings you can achieve has you taking control of the Reapers and watching over the galaxy with them. The problem is that it's not really clear why any of this happened. Like, the Reapers started influencing the Elusive Man, which, for starters, doesn't really seem very plausible considering how in control he always was. But regardless, why then does his Reaper-influenced mind come up with the idea to control the Reapers? So the Reapers want the Elusive Man to control the Reapers. I'm not saying there isn't an explanation somewhere, I'm saying this feels really contrary to what the Elusive Man and Cerberus stood for in the second game. As a whole, both Cerberus and the Elusive Man went from really compelling and interesting villain-like entities to now just straight-up bad guys. It's not the worst, and like I said, it does work in giving the game some fodder enemies to fight throughout the various missions, but it does leave Cerberus feeling a bit half-baked, especially considering how impressive they were in Mass Effect 2. I know it seems like I'm spending a lot of time harping on one single part of the story, but that's because Cerberus is the main conflict. Yeah, the Reaper threat is what's causing all of this to happen in the first place, but it's really Cerberus that you're fighting against most of the game. But I do understand to a degree. The moving parts of the galaxy, the races, the politics, the individual conflicts, these take up a lot of the game, so adding another complex faction to worry about could have really muddied the story. And the rest of the story is absolutely incredible. Mass Effect 3 takes everything that's built up thus far and smashes everything together for a really unforgettable final act to the trilogy. One of the most impressive aspects of the third title is the sheer amount of massive set pieces and locations you get to explore. It's by no means an open-ended game, you're still going from mission to mission, level to level in a linear fashion to progress. There's no returning to planets to collect stuff you missed or anything, which is very much in line with Mass Effect 2 rather than Mass Effect 1. But because every race in the galaxy has a role to play in this fight, you and the crew get to experience so many different worlds and set pieces. The underbelly of the Omega, the front lines of the Turian fight, the ruins of Tuchanka, and even an Asari monastery. These aren't places you just hear about, these are places you go to, and it really helps fill out a lot of these different races' architecture and culture, which is still one of Mass Effect's biggest strengths. One of, but not the biggest strength. No, the biggest strength both here and with the previous game is the writing and characters. There's not a lot of new faces, though one of them is a Prothean, an ancient alien race which the previous games allude to quite often. James is also just okay. I didn't really spend too much time talking to him, but the few times I did, he was fine. At this point in the series, I have my favorite characters, so the odds were stacked against him. One of the cooler additions, if you could call it that, is EDI. EDI was in Mass Effect 2, but here in Mass Effect 3, she has a cool robot body, which you can actually take into combat with you. Joker is also very pleased with this new EDI interface.
Hey Commander, check out my co-pilot!
So she installed herself into the new body without any help from you?
Come on, Commander, don't you trust me? Okay, let me put it this way. If I knew that EDI was gonna install herself into a sexy robot body, do you honestly think I'd be able to keep quiet about it? Look at that! I would've baked a cake.
I am right here, Chef.
Yes, you are, EDI. Yes, you are.
Again, that writing, mwah, chef's kiss. Perfect example. This scene here talking about a toothbrush is absolutely vital to the survival of the crew.
We can put in a requisition order.
My toothbrush is a Cision Pro Mark IV. It uses tiny Mass Effect fields to break up plaque and massage the gums. It costs 6,000 credits.
Okay, yeah. You're on your own with that.
Don't believe me? Here's what happened. The crew is on shore leave while the Normandy gets a tune-up. A fantastic excuse to see the crew under more casual circumstances. However, this vacation quickly turns sour as you find out that Shepard has an evil clone that Cerberus made. It starts at a restaurant, casually talking with Joker, when you're interrupted by Brooks, a rookie Alliance staff member.
Tonight's performance is brought to you by random acts of violence.
Hey!
Damn it!
Got one, sir.
Find the crew. I'm going after her.
Find the crew, got it.
You make it out safely and reunite with the rest of the crew. The plan is to stage a heist in order to track down Shepard's evil clone. The plan is ready, now all we gotta do is
Gear up and let's... What's with the Volas?
Oh, pizza delivery guy. I got the munchies.
All hands on deck for this one.
Hell yeah. But, who gets to take point with you?
Alright, great, we've tracked the clone down, now we just gotta get through his goons and, of course it was a trap.
I should go.
Huh?
He said, I should go. Do I sound like that?
Yeah, kinda.
Maybe it's, I should go. I should go. I should go.
Okay, but we're now out of the vault, and we need to rush to the Normandy to stop the clone from taking off. We've made it to the Normandy, and the clone is about to take off. We gotta get in there and stop him, but he's locked us out. There has to be some way in.
Manual lock, and it's only meant to be opened from the other side. Any ideas?
Triggering it would require extremely precise Mass Effect field manipulation.
If you told me this morning that a toothbrush was gonna save the Normandy, I'd have been very skeptical.
The end of this mission houses one of the more devious sins that the Mass Effect series has repeatedly committed in each game. Decisions that seem to matter, but don't. Shepard and his evil clone are hanging off the edge of the Normandy. Your team comes to help you up, yet the clone's lackeys leave him to die. You then have a decision to make. Do you save the clone or push him off? I thought long and hard about this decision. Killing the clone feels wrong, but he is your evil clone. And what happens when you save him and now there's two Shepards? We can't have two Shepards. Well, let's save him anyways, but oopsie, yeah, he dies anyway. So whether you kill or spare the clone, it doesn't really matter because the end result is pretty much the same. You may get a few blue Paragon points or red Renegade points with one route or the other, but for all intents and purposes, it really doesn't make a difference. Now this is one of my gaming pet peeves, the illusion of choice. Plenty of games do this. In fact, many games only do this. In many RPGs, the dialogue system is there to simply keep you engaged. You may get a different response, but the results are always the same. Obviously, Mass Effect isn't like that. There are plenty of choices that you can make that drastically alter the course of the series. But there are moments like this one here that don't really have any consequence. That's not to say that it detracts from the moment. Like I said, I really thought about what the right thing to do was. It does, however, take a bit of that spice away in hindsight when you realize that in both scenarios, the end result is more or less the same. I'm a bit torn on moments like this. If the game simply made choices for you instead of giving the illusion of control, you'd really only make choices sparingly. Even if that Paragon or Renegade system doesn't result in too much deviation, it still does give you a reason to choose certain options over others. Saying it's the illusion of choice makes it seem like a criticism, but on the contrary, the illusion itself is quite superb. Sure, these penalty-free choices aren't as impressive in hindsight, but it blurs the line between when something matters and when the outcome is set in stone. It makes each decision have weight, even if the actual effects of some choices don't amount to much. It helps that, again, that writing is just so good. Sometimes the reward is just a one-liner you choose, or a reaction from a different character. This crew, the Normandy crew, is so rich and full of life. It goes beyond just being video game characters. These folks feel like a real group of people, and being able to influence the outcome to many of their woes really brings you closer to them. It sounds cheesy, it sounds corny, but these do genuinely feel like real people. There's many different sci-fi works of fiction out there with many different crews and groups of people and alien races, but Mass Effect I think could very well be my favorite. It's just so dense with world building, and nothing feels out of place. Almost every single companion you come across, whether you can take them into combat or not, are interesting and have some shockingly insightful things to say at times. When you hear great things about the original Mass Effect games, this is what they're talking about. Regardless of the shaky quality of the gameplay in these games, the Mass Effect universe and the characters within are worth experiencing. But I bring further good news. The gameplay in Mass Effect 3 is finally good. I may have been harsh, maybe too harsh on these games for their sluggish, unresponsive combat, but that cannot be said for Mass Effect 3. The combat and gameplay of Mass Effect 3 is solid, responsive, engaging, and most importantly, fun. Shepard is much lighter on his feet, the guns hit harder than ever, the abilities are powerful, and the RPG mechanics are still somewhat light, but offer far more customization than both of the previous games combined. Instead of being locked into certain weapon types, Shepard can use anything, with weapon weight being the determining factor for weapon and ability balance. The lighter your loadout, the quicker your abilities recharge. Weapons can also be customized with up to 2 mods. These offer better weapon handling, damage, or even better weight management. There's a lot more weapons for each type, and I was constantly adjusting weapons and types to find out what worked best for me. The skills also have far more to offer, with many skills having multiple bonuses to choose from to spec them into more damage or utility. Overall, everything is just way more fun, and unlike Mass Effect 2, I never got tired of the combat here. It's hard to put into words, but everything just feels way better. The way Shepard moves is much less floaty, the way cover is used is far more flexible and doesn't feel like you're constantly fighting it. It's all just miles better, and there's even a dodge roll, which is tied to the same button as everything else. Are you serious? Can we please use a different button? All in all, I think Mass Effect 3 is my favorite in the trilogy. The combat is a blast to play with, and the story feels like it ends on the perfect note. The ending, while a bit somber, does actually feel like an end. No major cliffhangers, no to be continued, just a satisfying end to an awesome trilogy. Now, having played these games, I really do get why they're so beloved. It's not because of their gameplay necessarily, but more about the story, characters, and world building. It's an amazing set of games, and while the gameplay does require patience at times, it rewards your patience with some truly extraordinary writing. We've had a good run, so let's take one last moment to talk to the crew. You know, it's crazy. After 3 games, I never had an opportunity to romance anyone, which is a pretty well-known part of the series. Oh well. Anyways, hey Garrus,
We were just,
Oh, alright. So the video game characters would rather date each other before me. That feels offensive.